is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm going to be building a full $2,000 gaming setup. Not only am I going to run you through the PC and all the parts that are in it, I'm going to take you through the best peripherals in this budget, as well as this very snazzy gaming monitor. And to celebrate finally building a full setup on the channel, today's video sponsor Gigabyte are going to be giving away this system, so keep your eyes peeled for a special code which you can enter at the link in the description below. Right then, I think the best course of action is to kind of move everything else out the way. It's so heavy. Now, specifically, this is the Gigabyte G32QC. It's got a 165Hz panel with 1440p of resolution, which is kind of the ideal high resolution and high frame rate configuration in my opinion. That didn't sound good. Oh, I'm definitely going to need a new table. It's a good job this video's got a sponsor, isn't it? Let's be honest. Right, so power cables, we've got the stand base, as you saw earlier. That's quite cool. Seems quite sturdy as well. Now, for those of you that haven't built a monitor before, it's super duper easy. You just got to pop the tall bit through the flat bit and then use this kind of screw just to fasten it down into place. Make sure this is nice and tight because it's going to, of course, be supporting the weight of the monitor. Speaking of which, here it is. Now, if I put it kind of side on, you can probably see the curve. It's really quite impressive and creates a really immersive gaming experience. Now, because this is a curved monitor, it's not a good idea to kind of lay it flat with all the weight on either side. So I've put it back on the polystyrene just so that we can screw the base in nice and safely. There we go then. The first bit of the puzzle is kind of in, really. Next thing, it's always a good idea to protect your desk and also give you a really nice even surface to actually game on. Extended mouse mats are a great way of doing this. This is a perfect fit for this desk and you can get them from a range of manufacturers, and I'll link some options in the description below. Now, onto this, I've got XPG's Summoner keyboard. It's a pretty good, pretty affordable keyboard option. Comes in a pretty nice package as well, which is always a good start. And importantly, has a wrist rest, which we love here on the GeekaWhat channel. Now, to keep wires to a minimum, I've also picked up the Corsair Harpoon wireless mouse. I've been using this now actually for nearly a year. It's got some great Bluetooth and wireless USB range, or can be used wired, you know, if you don't like charging things up. All that really leaves to add kind of on the desk then before we kind of spruce it up with a few accessories is of course the PC and our headset. And let's do the PC first off. Specifically, this is an Intel 10th gen powered RTX 2060 build. The 2060 is probably the best pairing for this monitor because you get some great 1440p gaming results, and the Intel Core i7-10700K is one of the fastest gaming CPUs out there. We've also coupled it with a really nice Z490 motherboard from Gigabyte, and what that means is you're going to get some really fast single-threaded clock speeds and performance, and Intel's Turbo Boost technology is going to kind of ramp up depending on the application and really when you need it most. In this example, I've tested a few games out, and you can see here the really heavy reliance on one or two of the CPU's cores. And what that means is that the number of cores isn't the bottleneck, it's actually the speed of each core. And this Z490 combo means you get those faster cores, which kind of unlocks the next level of performance in terms of frame rate, which is really, really important. We've got some really cool other components in here as well, including a Gigabyte Aorus 240mm cooler, one with the screen on top, so it can tell you your CPU temperature directly on top of your CPU, which is just so sick, as well as 32 gigs of RGB Aorus RAM, and this really nice Phanteks Eclipse case. Specifically the P400, which keeps this build in a form factor that's kind of friendly for the top of a desk. Now, as always, I'll link everything, including all the computer parts, in the description below, or you can buy it ready built from overclockers here in the UK. The setup's definitely getting there, but there's a few more things we need to do before we power this whole kind of beast up. And that's of course to add the headset first and foremost. I've got Corsair's Virtuoso SE wireless, and also picked up this newbie headphone stand. It's pretty cheap, pretty affordable, found it on Amazon for around about $12, and it's going to keep your whole desk setup as tidy as possible. Talking of things that I found on Amazon at about 11 o'clock last night, is this really cool modern lampshade, which I think could be perfect for like a bedroom gaming setup. But James, a lampshade? Really? Wait for this. Now that is no ordinary lampshade. I've picked up an RGB bulb. This is a lot cheaper than something like Philips Hue, and it comes with a remote control, so you can cycle through lots and lots of different colours depending on what kind of game you're playing. and that kind of thing. It's also got 2 USB ports on the front, so when your phone gets a bit low on juice during a late night gaming session, it's kind of a really cool techie feature in what is otherwise quite a boring product. Now that we've actually built the main setup itself, and I think this is looking pretty good for a fairly modest budget, let's plug everything up and see exactly how this system performs. Testing it with some of the latest AAA titles, but then also some of the really popular esports titles to see just how many frames per second we can really get. Let's do this. Okay then, now we've actually built the setup and I've gone through all the bits and bobs I chose and why, I think it's looking pretty fantastic. And yes, I may be a little bit biased. It would be rude then not to open a few titles and see just how well the whole setup and the system choice today really performs. Fortnite is first up, and I've tested all the games today at competitive settings to really highlight how important the CPU and the GPU are in combination. You guys always say to me as well, James, play at competitive settings, so here we are. Fortnite at 1080p medium with RTX disabled and DLSS enabled, we're looking at an average of 261 frames per second, with a 90 and 99th percentile result of 216 and 193. Coupled with the curved monitor from Gigabyte, of course, their G32QC, and you've got a really immersive experience that puts you, right in the middle of the action. Fortnite as well looked great. There was no stuttering, no lag, no screen tearing, as you would all come to expect. Moving on to Overwatch next up, a really fun game, one of the most popular titles out there, even after all this time. And once again, we're cranking the settings down a little bit to 1080p medium to get that maximum frame rate. And here we're seeing an average of 211 frames per second with 90 and 99th percentile results of 205 and 199. That means your frame rate, the vast majority of the time, is never going below 199 FPS. Which is kind of insane. I mean, even on this 165Hz monitor, that is still a crazy frame rate. Once again here, we're seeing high CPU utilization, as we'll see in CSGO in a moment's time. And actually, the CPU can almost become the bottleneck if it's not quick enough. Everyone always talks about how important the GPU is, but if, like many of you in my comments who love to play with competitive settings, you might actually be surprised at where your bottlenecks end up sitting. Talking of which, the final game then is CSGO, and here I ran it at 1080p in windowed mode, which, I don't normally do, but it allowed me to have Task Manager open on the other side of the screen so you can see all the individual cores. And what that really makes clear is that CSGO is not very well optimized to use all of those different threads up. And as such, the speed of each individual thread is the important factor, as opposed to the number of cores or threads. Intel's Turbo Boost technology is going to speed that CPU up when you need it the most, and is going to speed up the cores that you need to go quicker. So for example, in our case, we're seeing a lot of utilization on the second row, so it's going to boost those cores up a little bit, providing the CPU's not too warm, which is where this great 240mm cooler comes in, and that really is affording you these super high 300 FPS frame rates in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. With that being said though, that pretty much wraps it up for not just the benchmark section today, but the whole setup. If you enjoyed this new series, make sure to give it a big old like rating, and remember to enter the giveaway, terms and conditions in the description below, to win this system if you manage to find the code hanging about in the video. It was pretty obvious, so you can't really miss it. Thanks for watching though, as always, and we'll see you in the next one.